Good morning, YouTube. Today's video is going to be something new. I'm going to call these videos back in the day videos. And these will be stories of what it was like for me growing up in Washington, D.C. And hopefully you'll enjoy these stories because apparently most people that hear them do, and they keep bugging me that I should write all this down, but that writing is a lot of work. Now, a little background. This occurred in Washington, D.C. These stories occurred in Washington, D.C. in the 70s and early 80s. And Washington was a lot different place than it is now. Security was, shall we say, considerably laxer than it is now. Okay. Another thing you'll have to understand too is that everybody worked for the government. Everybody's parents worked for the government. Okay? Alright, now, imagine this. Okay? By the way, the name of this video today is the Pentagon hack. Alright, now, you're a kid, a group of kids, very bright kids, and you live in Arlington County. Okay? And you've come to realize that there are all kinds of cool things in the dumpsters over by the Pentagon. Specifically, pictures of tanks, planes, ships. If you're ever in the Pentagon, just look on the wall. They're just all over the place. So that's what they were doing. They were in these dumpsters, dumpster diving, we called it, at the Pentagon, looking for stuff that interested kids. These were high school kids. And then they came across something called a user manual. Okay, this was before you could get personal computers commercially. If you wanted a personal computer, you had to build it yourself. Not only did you have to build the computer yourself, you had to write the operating system yourself. And guess what these kids' hobby was? You guessed it. They were building their own PCs from parts they were getting at Radio Shack, and they were writing their own operating systems. Okay, so when they came across this user manual for the Pentagon's mainframe, they were very curious. So they took it and they looked over the manual, and that's when they realized that what they thought was just scribbling on the inside cover was actually a user ID and password. Okay, so this is how the technology worked back then. They got a hold of a modem. They took their phone, okay, and if they were lucky, they had the push button one, not the rotary dial one, and they called the number for the Pentagon mainframe. And when the thing went, they put it on the cradle. Okay, that was hooked up to their PC that they had just built. Okay, and using the user ID and password that they found, they were able to access the Pentagon's mainframe. Now, I guess if they give you a user ID and a password, it's not really hacking, but whatever. Anyway, they started getting access to the Pentagon's mainframe, and it was not authorized, actually. But it wasn't long after that they realized that that user ID would only get them access to certain files. And there were some much more interesting files that they wanted to look at that they couldn't access. And that's when it occurred to them that they'd seen these user ID and password thingy scribblings before, usually on post-it notes in the trash. So they started looking for them. And this became like lottery tickets. Does this user ID give me more access than the last one did? Right? Because that's what people did. They scribbled the user ID and passwords on post-it notes and stuck it on next to the computer. Or, well, not computers back then, they were dumb monitors, CRT monitors. But anyway, the point is that they were having a lot of fun. And then, of course, when they would go to school, at lunch and they would discuss, you know, what they had found, because they're all working independently of each other. Like, hey, I found this file, I found this file. Well, like I said, everybody's parents worked for the government. And one kid overheard their conversation about this really cool fighter bomber we had that was invisible to radar. And he goes to the dinner table and starts talking about it. Well, his father was in intelligence. And he recognized right away that his son should not know about this, and he was shocked to learn that he heard about this at the cafeteria at his high school. So there's a little bit of an investigation, okay? And what they did is they rounded the kids up. Well, what the kids did is they would come together, I think it was every Wednesday, at the food court over by the Pentagon City Mall. Yes, there's actually a mall across the street from the Pentagon. They call it Pentagon City. And the FBI rounded them all up, right? But here's the situation. Now, these kids' parents all worked for the government. They were all high up in the bureaucracy, okay? So that's an issue. Secondly, they're not going to want to admit publicly that a bunch of intrepid high school kids hacked their mainframe and accessed information that they weren't supposed to, right? So an arrangement was made that said, look, bygones will be bygones. Just don't do it again. Whatever you do, don't talk to any reporters. And we'll just forget all about this. And that's what happened. And of course, all these kids now work for the NSA. Well, that's one way of getting noticed, I guess. Anyway, that's my story. That's about a story about how some kids I knew growing up managed to hack the Pentagon's mainframe. I don't know if you'll enjoy it, but a lot of my friends enjoyed it, and I certainly enjoyed telling the story. And as soon as there's something to make fun of in the news, I'll be back with one of those videos. Anyway, enjoy your day.